Hello all, and welcome to the Edge of Midnight channel. It's not been a good morning. Not a good morning at all. It wouldn't be so bad if we hadn't been so close. You know, I know it's going to be a bad morning because when I went down I picked up like 6 packs of these tissues. I was thinking about how much me and Paola did together. And it was quite literally everything. There wasn't a part of my life that was separate. It didn't matter whether I was upstairs and she was down. There's thousands upon thousands of messages in my WhatsApp and my texts from Paola. Silly little photos. Reminders that the next TV show we're watching is just starting. Comments on what kind of loot she's just found in her Skyrim VR game. Of course she had to play sitting down. We discuss how stupid Lydia is and how she keeps getting in the way. This house is so empty. And this is where the depression and everything has all the ammunition. 12 days ago, 13 days ago now, I would have just crawled up in a ball and stayed there until Trevor checked on me and made something eat for me. But instead I did what I had to. I fed the dogs, I let them out, I gave them a love. I put the washing in, I turned the washer on, I brushed my teeth. Didn't feel like any breakfast, so I had an apple instead. Got myself a drink. Did all the things I had to do before coming up here. I was going to just go straight on to the division and do a normal play around looking for loot, but I'm not up to that yet. It's only magical monkeys. Only magical monkeys. Okay. Everybody who knows about Paola says she's special. And this is beyond the normal where people don't like to say bad things about dead people. I do. If they were bad in life, they were bad in death. Dying or getting cancer doesn't make you a good person, I'm sorry. Tragedy doesn't erase what an asshole you were in real life. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. I was very lucky to know her for so long. I was very lucky to do so much. The song Chasing Cars came on. Oh. This was a woman who, no matter how ill she felt, no matter how much pain she was in, no matter how weak, she would make time for anyone. That she, no matter how much pain and how much was taken away from her, she never let it make her bitter. She had every right in the world, to be hateful, to be angry. And she didn't. She was a far better person than me. The thing with cancer and diabetes and renal failure and heart attack, there's no target. I'm a fighter. I would have fought any battle for her. I would have died for us, and people say that and they don't mean it. But I would have. I would have happily given my life in a second, because I know the world would have been better with her in it. And she never got what she deserved. She never got any recognition. She never wanted any recognition. Oh. Oh, sorry. And I see all the crap going on in the world. Politics and bullshit and lies. All the stupid stuff about Brexit. I see how a picture of a cat gets more likes and publicity than someone like Paola. I see how the latest breakup between a couple who are famous for some reason but done nothing of worth in the universe, the world, gets front page news. And Paola, who never did anything because she would get anything back for it. Because the sad thing is, most of the cards that she sent out, most of the birthday presents she sent, the people that she sent them to never made any effort in return. But she didn't do it for what you get back. I mean, this is what we forget about gifts. In this day of commercialism and materialism, we spend all our time oh, I've spent 100 quid on such and such, I've got to spend 100 quid on such and such. Oh, what they're going to get me? Oh, let's open it in front of them. Let's open the present on camera, so we can show the world what prezzies we've been given. Let's do the unboxing. And I truly believe that the world is a lesser place since November the 20th, when Paola died. This was a woman who would have fought for someone else's happiness and health more than her own. I get the real feeling that she was too good for this world. Because I've never met her match, male or female. In 48 years. I hope there's other people like her. Because otherwise the world is really fucked, isn't it? I mean, let's face it. We've got enough politicians. We've got enough materialist people. We've got enough people who are famous for no reason other than they grab the spotlight. What people of worth do we have? What people of worth do we have that are out there? who do the right thing, not because it's fashionable, not because to get some recognition, but because it's simply the right thing. Those are the people we need. Those are the people we need in power. Those are the people we need running the bloody country. Every country. Who don't do it to be popular. Who don't do it for voters. Well, they do it for voters, but they don't do it for votes. And they'll sacrifice their career in a second if it's the right thing to do. To get through a bill that will help people. To do something that's unpopular if it will help people. And we don't have anybody who is willing to do that. Look at the debacle of the UK. Typical. I could have done that, couldn't I? I had the money. Don't matter. I'm going to restart it. I'm not wasting money. I'm still trying to save up. Just have a drink. Everybody's so happy about this organisation or that organisation or such and such going on. But what I see is a world that didn't even know about power existing. A world that puts worth in words, not deeds. That is so superficial. That it hurts. What would I do if I had money? I tell you what I'd do. I'd open up a monument to honour my wife. I'd buy a place in one of the towns, or in every town. The artwork she did when she basically, her hands were completely full of arthritis and she couldn't move them. The things she made. Examples of how she lived and how she fought. He'd give out free food to the homeless. This place would. And anybody could come in and sit around and chat. And no one was asked for anything in return. That's what I'd do if I won the lottery. I'd probably still live in this house. As long as I had a good computer to do this, as long as I had enough money to pay the bills, I'd be happy. Everything else could go into making sure power wasn't forgotten. Not because of some personal egotistical need, but because I believe the world's a better place if they know about power. It's strange. Paola fought for every moment, and she didn't waste any one of those moments. She never took for granted anything she had. She could still do. And when the side effects did progress and stopped her doing a single thing, she would move on to something else. When she couldn't do cross stitch anymore, she didn't pine about it. She didn't get miserable. She didn't wallow in pity or anything like that. It was like almost, it was instantly, okay, Vincent, I'd like to try this. Chinese silk paper painting, or whatever it's called. Crochet. And I always used to drive her mad by calling crocheting. It's just, the world makes a little less sense. Paola wasn't media savvy. Oh, being in this mood doesn't make it. I'm not in the best mood for playing balloons, am I? And the thing is, when I listen to that song, Chasing Cars, it says something about just lying here and forgetting the world. Would you lie with me? Oh God. The world really doesn't make sense sometimes. There's so many rapists and assholes and bullies and people who in government and people in business that stick their finger up at the world and screw over the economy just for a few more percentages. And then there's people like Paola, without a voice, who were the best of us. By any ethical standard, by any moralistical standard, by any ideal standard, by any Hollywood standard and bullshit, she was the best of us. She should have had the happy ending. If any world makes sense, she should have had the happy ending. I'm sorry about this. But there was always going to be videos like this on my channel. Why do I even class this as a bad day? That's why this channel is so important. Not just for me, but for who Paola was. Why she was a good person. That's why it's important to me that you watch these videos. And these videos can let people know about her. Use her as an example. This was a woman who, from 21 years old, was always in pain. And she fought it for 21 years. She died at 42. She never let it beat her right to the end. Her body just couldn't fight anymore. She wanted to, but her body just couldn't. And she didn't let the illness become who she was. The cancer, the dialysis, the renal failure, the diabetes, the loss of her ability to walk. She'd say at 11 o'clock at night, "Hasten, I feel like a walk. I feel like going out. Are you okay taking me?" How could I ever say no? No matter how I was feeling, how bad I was feeling, how knackered I was, how much work I'd done that day. How could you say no to someone like that? Who at 11 o'clock at night? So we'd just wrap her up in like 6 different layers because of how cold she got. 2 different sets of gloves, leggings, and then a big coat, and then get her into the wheelchair, and we'd be off. We'd go through the local graveyard at night because it was lovely in the moonlight, with all the old monuments. We'd go over to the fountain and sit by it. No one ever bothered it. After all, I'm 6'2" and built pretty damn big. You don't really want to mess with someone pushing a wheelchair around at that time of night. It's kind of odd. And then we'd go through the park and listen to the lake and the ducks and that were still awake. And I'd be ready to collapse by the time we got home. But I never stopped. Because she deserved it. Just like my fear of water, my terrifying fear of water, never stopped me pushing her along the canal. And if I was special like her, I should have found a way to save her. And I know rationally, don't. I know rationally that smarter people than me all over the world couldn't. I know we had some people always have a go at the NHS. But they did their best for Paola. Maybe the saying is right, and I know I heard it somewhere. Some people are just too good for this world. This world's too harsh, too materialistic, too violent. But I don't think that's right. I think this world isn't good enough for them. I think this world needs to reevaluate who they are. And what's important. We slip and slide from one violent, silly praise to the next. Things are so superficial. And when something really special comes along, it never gets heard. So, if you're watching this, if you got the link via Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, or even Facebook, share it for me. Share it for Paola. Retweet it. Email it to friends. Ask your internet famous friends to push it forward. Because someone like Paola shouldn't be forgotten. Because the world is less when a person like that disappears. And the world is inspired when what that person's done and who she is. If every time you share this, one more person goes to my YouTube channel and then goes to the website about Paola, deviantedge.org, reads her story and does something special for their wife, their loved one, or spends more time with family, then that matters. I'm not asking for a miracle. I'm not asking to get Paola back. I'm not asking for the world to suddenly change. But I believe that examples like Paola, people who fought through the worst of luck, the worst chances, without much help, without any recognition, deserve recognition. The person who doesn't ask for recognition is the one person who actually should. Who was the first person to actually do one of these ideas of picking up rubbish and a before and after? People have been doing it for years, but only when a person comes along and takes a picture before and after and it becomes internet famous. The people that never took the pictures, that were too busy picking up the rubbish and cleaning up the areas. Not to get internet points, not to get any fame, but because it was the right thing to do. And that's the problem I have with all these fashionable trends, even the ones that do good, because it's a fashionable trend and it'll stop at some point in time. But the person that did it without a camera with them, the person who cleaned up an area and just went home afterwards without any recognition, that's the hero. That's the person that you say, yeah. And that's the kind of person Paola was. All the time she helped other people, all the time she put herself out. She never did it for recognition, she never did it for a selfie, she never did it for any kind of one-upmanship. And the story I tell about Paola of who she was is simply when her kidneys had just failed. She was in agony. She was carrying 5 kilograms extra of water weight on both legs, as because the kidneys had completely failed, there was nowhere for the liquid to go, so liquid was staying in there. It had come up to her chest. It was surrounding her lungs. She was having real trouble breathing. And that's scary. It's a scary thing to know. This liquid is actually compressing your lungs and you can't breathe. You're struggling for every breath. Normally when they put a person on dialysis, it takes months. They have to set things up, they have to test, you can't do it too quick. They got her on dialysis within days because she didn't have much time left. And that night when I left her, she was smiling, but you could tell she was real agony. And her legs were like concrete. They had so much liquid on her legs that she couldn't bend them at the knee. And there was 5 other people in that ward with her. And when I left, what did she do? Instead of resting as she was supposed to do, she dragged herself into her wheelchair and went over to each of those people and spent time with her. And in the morning, when I found out about it, I said, why would you do that? You needed your rest. I know how much this was hurting you. And she just said, they looked lonely. I wanted to give them some company. She wouldn't have even mentioned it if I hadn't found out from a bloody nurse that she had done something special last night. Everybody in that ward thought she was an angel. And that kind of person deserves to be an example to help all of us. So yeah, this was me playing balloons. This was me having a dark time. So I'm going to put this up right now. Normally I wouldn't. This is going to go straight up. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry this was a sadder one. I'm sorry that I ranted. So this is Jason for the Edge of Midnight channel on YouTube, saying goodbye for now.